Okay, so very nice to be here with you again. Yeah, I remember many years ago being here. So today we're going to talk about how to um, free ourselves from worldly concerns, right? Something along that line, right? Which you're all looking forward to, yeah, because you don't like your worldly concerns. I mean, some of our worldly concerns are really a pain in the neck, but other worldly concerns we like. Going on holiday, good food, nice music, some status, and praise. Oh my goodness, we like that one. Yeah. So we're kind of ambivalent about our worldly concerns. We want the nice part, let's have the pleasure, but let's not have the pain in the neck that comes with them. Okay, before I get going on that topic, let's just sit for a couple of minutes, let our mind relax and change gears as we go from running around all day to doing something more serious. So just watch your breath. Don't change your breathing pattern at all. Just let it be what it is. But be aware of the sensations as you inhale and exhale. And be aware how your breath connects you to the rest of the world, because we all breathe the same air. And then let's cultivate our motivation and think that we will listen and share the Buddha's teachings this evening so that we can understand our own mind better, be able to discern what is virtuous and what is not virtuous in terms of our thoughts and emotions, our words and our deeds. And then to learn how to subdue the non-virtuous ones, familiarize ourselves with virtuous actions, and to do all of this for the long-term goal of attaining full awakening. And why do we want full awakening? Why do we seek that? It's not so that we can be peaceful, so that we can be the best, so that people can give us apples and oranges on the altar. We do it because we want to have the wisdom, compassion, and skillful means to make a positive contribution to society and to the welfare of all living beings. So with that very expansive motivation, then let's share this evening. Okay, so before we can talk about how to be free of the worldly concerns, how not to let them disturb our lives, we have to understand first what they are and see very clearly how they manifest in our own life, how we respond to them. The Buddha spoke of 8 worldly concerns, and I don't know about you, but my life is basically consists of all 8. Okay, so I'll run through them briefly. Although if Lama Zopa Rinpoche were talking, you would be hearing about the 8 worldly concerns for the next 5 years, every single talk. He really liked those, you know. Okay, so there's 8 of them, and they're in 4 pairs. And in each pair, there's something we like and there's something that we don't like. Okay, so first pair, we like having money and material possessions, right? Yeah, we live in Western culture. We like accumulating things, new clothes, new sports equipment, new bicycles, new cars, new everything. Yeah, especially, the thing that constitutes most people's lives these days. Well, this is a little bit big, but yeah. And I see people here, they don't hold their phones when they're riding bicycles. When we were in Singapore, people were riding their bicycles and holding their phones. Your phone's like, a third of this size. And people are pretty glued to their phones. Yeah, are you glued to your phone?
Yes.
I thought so. Yeah, because when people come to the Abbey, our monastery, we ask them to give us their phones, and we lock them for the duration of the retreat. And people look at us like, are you crazy? This is attached to my hand. Yeah, you want me to cut off my hand so I could give you my phone? No way, And that's the way people are, yeah. And, carry it everywhere. You want the latest, uh, whatever it is. Ay. Yeah. The latest iPhone number, whatever it is, because it has the most things that can distract you more and more. And besides, when you have the latest one, then you can put it out on the table when you meet your friends and they all look and go, oh, so you have the iPhone number 6554. Wow. I only have the iPhone number 10, you know. And then you get kind of jealous, they get jealous and then you feel, oh yes. So we like our possessions, yeah. Your house, your furniture, your clothes, as many possessions as we can have. We get more and more. We use up more of the world's resources, more than our fair share of the world's resources. But that doesn't matter because we like stuff and we like money. Yeah. It's very interesting now. What is money? Everybody wants more money. And everybody, since the dear president of my country, who I did not vote for, caused an economic upheaval. Everybody's worried about their retirement accounts, their stocks, their bonds, their everything. Yeah. So we like getting stuff, but as soon as we get something, then we have what I call the hell realm that corresponds with it. So as soon as you get a new car, yeah, what do cars do besides run? They stop running and they brake, usually when you're in a hurry to get somewhere. Okay? They time their brakes in breakdowns very methodically. Yeah. So as soon as we get something, we get the hell realm that corresponds with it. Yeah, when your car breaks down, and then you get the bill to have it fixed. When you have a phone, you have the hell realm that corresponds with the phone when it doesn't work. Yeah. If you're like me, as soon as you have a computer, oh my goodness, yeah, the hell realm that comes with the computer. you know, it doesn't do what I want. And even when I haven't told it to do something, it does something anyway. And then I have to call him and say, help. Okay. So we like getting stuff. We like having money, but then we don't like having to worry about it. We don't like when we don't have it. Yeah. So much anxiety comes because of attachment to money and possessions and worry about not having it. And, you know, somebody forgets your birthday, they don't give you a birthday present, you're upset. You loan somebody, you know, a possession and they break it, or somebody breaks into your house and they steal something. Okay, so we like getting things, but we don't like losing them or being disappointed by them. Correct? Is this true? Yeah, some of you look like you're not too sure. um, okay, so that's the first part. We're attached to getting, adverse, and we get upset when we don't get it or when we lose it. Second thing, second pair is praise and approval. So we like praise and approval, don't we? Yeah, as much as possible, please. Yeah. So whatever I do, I want you to approve and I want you to praise. And, you know, you should praise how I look. I mean, aren't my clothes just stupendously beautiful? And my hair is so nice. Yeah, so you should praise it. And, you know, I'm so intelligent and I'm so creative. And yeah, I want praise. I want approval. Okay. Yeah, from friends, from our family. Yeah, sometimes we're in competition with our siblings for who gets mom and dad's approval. Yeah, and we like the praise from our boss, from our colleagues, from whoever gives it. Yeah. And we don't like the opposite, criticism, disapproval. Yeah, when somebody looks and says, you jerk, why did you do that? You know, didn't you know what you were doing? And I trusted you to do this project and you didn't do it and you failed me, and now I have all the headaches and, you know, these kind of problems when we do something in a poor way or somebody misunderstands what we say, or we forget to do something we told people we would. So, you know, people disapprove. People, you know, they don't praise us, they criticize us, they insult us. Yeah, you know the routine, right? Yeah. Anybody here never been criticized? Anybody here never criticized somebody else? Oh, no, me. I don't do that to people. Yeah. Okay, so praise and blame. Yeah, attachment to one, you know, anger, upset when we get the other. Okay, then the third one, the third pair is attachment to a good reputation. Yeah, we want to be known in a group of people, however large or small it is, as somebody who's successful, intelligent, athletic, creative, the best in anything in the world. Yeah, we want a good reputation, and we don't like a bad reputation. So the difference between the one about reputation and praise and blame, okay, both of them are depending on what other people think of us. But with praise and blame, it's more of a direct thing, somebody that is in front of you, you know, praising or blaming. Yeah. The one about reputation is what a larger group of people, which could be people you don't even know, but you want to have a good reputation and want them to think well of you. So whatever talents we have, we want to be noted for them. Yeah. And we vie, we compete with other people to have a very good reputation. This is what sports games are about. Yeah. You don't want to just win the game. You want to be known as the best, whatever, quarterback or tennis player or golfer or whatever it is. Yeah. If you grow bonsai trees, you want to be known as the best one who grows bonsai trees. Okay, whatever your thing is. And we don't like having a bad reputation at all, because of great, I don't know if you have the same thing here, but in the US, they're always doing polls about the president's popularity, and it goes up and it goes down. Yeah. These days, quite considerably, depending on what day it is. Yeah. And what the dear president says every day. Up and down. Yeah. So, reputation, we're very concerned with that. And we don't like having a bad one. Yeah. When we die, we want people to write a beautiful obituary about us. Yeah. And we want to look beautiful in the coffin. Yeah. So this is both reputation and praise. Yeah. Nancy Reagan, she was President Reagan's wife. And she planned her whole funeral, including who was going to be invited to it. She made sure that they did her hair. She went to her body, her corpse, had its hair done and dressed very nicely so that when she was lying there dead in the coffin, people would walk by and say, "Oh, Nancy is so beautiful." Yeah. Yeah, she wanted that kind of reputation. Yeah. But we don't like a bad one. Yeah, people criticizing or blaming us as a whole big group. And then the last pair, is we're very attached to pleasant sensory sensations, and we don't like unpleasant ones. Okay, so with our eyes, we want to see beautiful things. Yeah, you don't want to go to a war-torn country and see dead bodies on the street. Pleasant things to see. We don't like to see unpleasant things. We like to hear pleasant sounds. We like to hear praise. We don't want to hear blame. We like to hear nice music. We don't like to hear either our parents' generation music or our children's generation music. Yeah, but our generation music, that sounds good. Okay, so eyes, right? Eyes, ears, nose. We want to smell pleasant things. You go to India and walk down the street and it smells like a bathroom. Okay, we don't like that. Yeah. Good taste. We like food made exactly the way we like it. Not cooked too much, not cooked too little. Enough salt, but not too much salt. Yeah, enough sugar, but not too much. Well, no, there's no such thing as too much sugar. Okay, but we're very particular about the food, and if we go out to eat and the food isn't prepared the way we want, we complain. Take it back to the kitchen, get me something different. Yeah. Okay, then, so eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. Oh, this is a big one. Okay, the room's kind of hot, isn't it? We don't like that. We want the room to be colder, but not too cold, because we won't like that either. Yeah. We like smooth touches on our skin. We don't like scratchy material. Yeah. So we're very sensitive, to feelings of touch. We like having, we don't like having hunger. We like having a full belly, but not too full of the belly, because that's not so pleasant either. Okay? So all day long, we're trying to control the rest of the world so that we can get the 4 things that we like and push away, stop, get rid of, prevent get the 5 things we like and get rid of the 5 things we don't like. Okay, in terms of our senses, but also in terms of possessions, praise and blame, reputation, and then the 5 senses. Yeah. So getting things we like, getting rid of the things we don't like. So this occupies most of our time and most of our life. Yeah. What do you think about when you first get up in the morning? What's your first thought?
Coffee?
That's it for some people. Coffee. It's either coffee or I want to go back to sleep.
The phone.
Oh, the phone, of course. Yeah. You've got to look at your phone the first thing in the morning, because surely some good news is on that phone. I mean, that you're really addicted to it, aren't you? Because like everything is going to be something good, and then it's just another ad. Yeah, telling that you know, all these ridiculous ads we get. Yeah, but what do we think about all day? Or with first thing in the morning? What pleasure am I going to have or can I get? And what unpleasant thing might I encounter today? Okay. So when we get pleasure, the mind is happy. When it doesn't work out the way we want and it's not so pleasant, we get unhappy. So we're like waves. We're like yo-yo toys, up and down all day long. Yeah. I get to see somebody I like who might praise me. Whee! Oh, I saw that person and they criticized me. Whoa. Okay. Yeah. Who's the star of that show? Yeah, ourselves, isn't it? Yeah, all day long. How can I have pleasure? And how can I stop or prevent unpleasant things? All day long, we're totally glued to the external world, thinking that happiness comes from getting what we like, and so we got to get it. And suffering comes from getting things we don't like, so we have to push it away. So it's always seeing our happiness and our suffering depend on a person or an external person or an external object. So give me, push away, give me, push away. Yeah. Yeah, we're born that way, live that way, die that way. What do you think? Is that a good use of our life? Is that the extent of meaning of our life? Just to get nice things and push away unhappy things? Yeah, for many people, this is really the meaning of their lives. And it's a constant struggle. Yeah. But at the end of the day, what happens? We die. Yeah. When I say end of the day, I mean end of our life. Yeah. We die, and we can't take any of it with us. Yeah, Nancy Reagan had that beautiful hairdo, and it got buried in the ground together with her body, which she couldn't take with her. She couldn't take with the prestige of being the first lady. Yeah, nothing. And it's the same with us. None of that comes with. So when we think about the title of the talk, which is how to what? How to let go of worldly concerns. Okay, how to let go of worldly concerns. So, how do we do that? Well, the Buddha taught a wonderful meditation that if you do it, it's really effective in helping us to let go. And that's the meditation on impermanence and death. Yeah. And everybody goes, oh, I don't want to hear about impermanence and death. That's scary. Yeah. I want to arrange everything in my life so it's exactly the way I want it. And then it's supposed to stay that way. Like when you do your hair. Yeah. And it's, yeah, right. It's supposed to stay that way and not move. Yeah. Donnie, do you know who I'm talking about when I say Donnie? You don't? It's somebody with orange hair who's used a lot of hairspray. Yeah, do you know now? Yeah. Okay, Mickey Mouse. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, you arrange your hair and you spray it, and it's not supposed to move. So you fall in love, you have a relationship, you're always supposed to get along, permanent. That person's not supposed to change. They're not supposed to get old. Yeah. And you're not supposed to get old either. Yeah. But we're all getting older, and we're all in the process of getting uglier. Sorry to break that to you. But it's true, isn't it? What does our society extol? Being young. Traditional societies actually appreciated being old because you have some maturity and some wisdom, hopefully. Not all the time. But, we want, you get your ideal job. You don't want it to change. But then the whole field changes. Everything's getting, changed by tech, by AI. But we like stability. Find what we like, get rid of what we don't like, and then make it permanent, secure, and predictable. Right? Yeah. Is anything in this world permanent, secure, and predictable? Yes or no? No.
Texas.
Huh?
Texas.
Taxes. No, they aren't predictable either. Yeah, they get cut and then they get raised and they get cut and they get raised. Yeah. So, everything is in the process of change, but we want it to be predictable, permanent, secure. We want security, don't we? Yeah. And that's what fuels a lot in our economy. Buy more possessions and you will be more secure. Yeah. But it doesn't work that way, unfortunately, because everything's changing all the time. So one thing to do to let go of the worldly concerns is to really think about how they change, how they're impermanent. Yeah. And ask ourselves, is it really worthwhile to be so attached to the pleasant things and be so upset with the things that we don't like? Yeah. Is it really worthwhile seeing that, and being so emotional about these things because they change all the time? Yeah. Have you ever thought about that? Yeah. Especially when you fall in love. That's an interesting expression, fall in love. Like you have no control and you just went kerplunk. No. Um, I once, a teenage girl was coming to a talk that I was giving in the States, and we stopped on the way to have a picnic. And so you know how teenagers are. Anybody here a teenager? No, none of you look that like. You all look very young, but older than a teen. Yeah, I can't insult you. Um, so, uh, yeah, so you know how teenagers are. Your whole body, mind, everything is controlled by your hormones, basically. And, so uh, so we were eating this picnic, and there were some boys playing, I don't know, some kind of game. And she was looking at them and clearly very interested in them. And they were probably looking at her instead of at the ball. Being interested in her. Anyway, I said to her, yeah, they look good now, huh? She, yeah. I said, imagine them in 60 years from now. What are they going to look like? She went, no. I, oh. And I said, that's for sure going to happen, isn't it? If they live that long and they age in 60 years, they're going to look different. They're not going to look like how they look right now. Yeah. But, we think everything's going to be secure and permanent. It's not. Yeah. And especially now at your work, do you find in your jobs that what's expected of you is changing all the time as automation happens and technology influences the workplace? And yeah, so when we think about change, instead of getting depressed because, oh, I want it to be secure, but it isn't, to think, what's the purpose? Why should I get so up when I get the good stuff, and why should I get so down when I get the bad stuff? Yeah, what's the use? Up, down, and being so emotionally volatile. Yeah, so that when people see us, they're, from one day to the next, they're not sure if we're going to smile at them or, complain. So, to learn to be more stable emotionally. Yeah. And so remembering how things change. The good stuff, it's going to break, it's going to age, it's going to go away. Yeah. So why get so clingy to it? The stuff that we don't like, where we get angry, how we get upset when we get criticized, when our possessions break or somebody steals them, or when the food's too hot or too cold, or whatever it is, instead of getting so bummed out, to remember this is going to change. It's not always going to be like this. So I don't need to be so reactive. Yeah. What do you think? You think it would be nice to not be so reactive? Yeah. It would be nice, kind of nice, huh? Where you're not apathetic. I'm not saying that we just go, oh, duh, you know, but, it really doesn't matter what kind of tea you have. As long as it's wet, you're happy. Yeah? And it's not like, oh, well, the first thing in the morning I have to have, an espresso made exactly this way, or chai made exactly this way. you know, you're not so finicky, and your happiness doesn't depend so much on outside, because you're more even-tempered, and you're more open and can enjoy whatever you have, instead of always saying, oh, I want better, I want more, I want better, I want more. Because that's kind of our theme song, isn't it? I want better, I want more, better and more. That's what we, all day long, isn't it? All day long. Yeah. And so we're left in a state of constant dissatisfaction. So remembering impermanence is very good that way, you know. It's going to change, so enjoy it while it's there, and don't get bummed out about it if you don't like it, because that's going to change too. Like this dirt on my shim top that I didn't notice. And now my reputation is ruined because you think I'm a slob. But you're right. So why am I so sensitive to be seen as a slob if it's true? Yeah? Why are we so sensitive to criticism when sometimes it's true? Yeah, we have that fault. We made that mistake. Yeah, why are we always going, no, it's true. Yeah, so relax. It's not a death sentence. Okay, so a few months ago, so that's one antidote, remembering impermanence. That helps us to let go of worldly concerns. Another one is, I think, how to release anxiety. Yeah, because people seem so anxious nowadays. Anxious because you might not get what you want, you may get what you don't want, you might lose what you have. The world is unpredictable. You know, the tariffs go. You don't know if your stock is secure or insecure. Everything is chaotic, okay? So people get very anxious. Yeah. But when you look at what anxiety is, you know, it's a very interesting emotion. Are you anxious about something that happened already? Are you anxious about the past? No. What are we anxious about? Yeah. The present is happening right now, becoming the past. We're not particularly anxious about the present. I mean, right now, if you look around you, oh, I'm sitting in a safe place with kind people. Why am I anxious? Well, I'm anxious because in the future, this, that, or the other thing may happen or not happen. Yeah. So we're very anxious about the future. We are worried about what has not yet happened and what may never happen. This is what is so interesting about anxiety, because we're sitting here in the present, yeah, and we start thinking of the future. And in the future, oh, they could raise tariffs to, 200%. And then what's going to happen? Are people here worried about tariffs? No, you're not? Yeah? Yes? No? Huh?
Global recession, yes.
Yeah. Are you worried about there being a recession? You know, like what happens if there's a recession? How am I going to feed my family? What's going to happen, to my money in the bank? Will I need a whole wheelbarrow full of money to buy a grapefruit because of inflation? No, you're not worried about that? Oh, a few people. Oh, very different. This is very different. My country, everybody's like, well, of course, we have a reason to be worried, huh? Yeah. But we tend to get anxious about something that has not yet happened and something that may never happen. And instead, what we do is we dream up a whole scenario, a horror story, basically, of what could possibly happen. Yeah. And then we think that it's going to happen and we get anxious. Oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Did any of you ever grow up with parents who were anxious? Yeah. How did it feel to have parents who were anxious whenever you left the house? It's not so nice, is it? Yeah. Mom and dad are just, this is a typical teenage thing because, at 16, we are almost enlightened and our parents are stupid. Yeah. So at 16, you want your independence. You want to go out with your friends. You don't want to be told what time to come home. You want your parents to give you money and support you, give you the car keys, but don't tell you what time you want to be home, right? Yeah, that's how parents should be when you're a teenager. And your parents, they worry about you. Now, when I went out, I had a curfew that was earlier than other people's curfew. I did not like that, but I knew that if I arrived 1 minute late, my mother would be on the phone calling the police. My daughter's been kidnapped. Yeah, she's not home. She's been in a car accident. Go look for her. Find her. Something happened. And I'm probably sitting out in the car parked in front of the house with a friend. Yeah, but your parents are worried about you. It's not so pleasant. Yeah. When we are anxious, do you feel good when you're anxious, when you're worried, when you're fearful about something that has not happened and may never happen, which you are sure will happen, and you don't know what to do, and you feel like you have no resources, so you create this whole horror story in your mind and get anxious? Anybody here do that? Yeah. Oh, 3 people. I see. The rest of you, 4. Oh, okay. Yeah, the rest of you even. Nothing bothers you. Huh? Yeah, you're not worried about anything. Okay. So that's another antidote to remember, if you are anxious, yeah, that you're creating a horror story and then telling yourself it's going to happen and that there's nothing you can do and you have no help if it happens. And none of that is true. You're fabricating a horror story that you believe in, and that horror story stars me. Okay? So yeah, that's another antidote when you start getting anxious, because it's about worldly concerns. Yeah. And most of those things, or many of those things, we don't have any control over. Yeah. If you really listen to people when they talk about their problems and their fears and their worries, yeah, their anxiety, what they're anxious about, yeah, it's so often things that we don't have any control over. but we think we should be able to control them. Okay. How many of you have kids? Okay. So you're concerned about your kids, right? Yeah. You want your kids to grow up and have enough money, have nice possessions, be better off than you are. Every parent wants their kids to be better off. Yeah. You want your kids, to earn a good living, to, and to do that, then they have to have a good education, get into a good school. To get into a good school, then they have to get into, pass certain exams. And it all really starts with kindergarten and doing well in kindergarten. Because if you don't do well in kindergarten, then you won't get into a good grammar school. I mean, you're going to fail, your spelling tests in grammar school. Yeah. I don't know how to spell in Dutch, but, in English, cat. Yeah. And your kid comes home, they flunked their spelling test because they spelled cat, K-A-T. Right? And you're go, oh dear. My son, my daughter flunked their spelling test. They don't know how to spell cat. How are they ever going to learn to spell? I got to get them a tutor. They can't go out and play anymore. They have to stay home and learn and memorize all these words so they can learn to spell, because I want them to be an executive. And nowadays, executives don't have their own secretaries. They have to type things out themselves. And if my kid can't spell, cat, it's a disaster. Yeah, so you're worried. Now, what are they going to do? Well, teach your kid how to use a spell check on the computer. It's not difficult, but you don't think about that when you're all worried and anxious. Again, it's like, I should be able to control my child so that they know how to spell cat properly. And I should be able to, control my child so that when they learn how to play the violin, they are the best violinist. I don't want them to play second fiddle. Yeah. Whatever my child does, it has to be superb, right? Yeah. Why? Because it's your kid. If it's the neighbor's kid, it's not so important. Yeah. But they're both little kids who just want to be happy and don't want to suffer. But you favor one and not the other, and you feel you should control one and not control the other. Yeah, because they have to be successful. And they may get hurt if they go out alone. It's so dangerous. They may get hurt. And, as a parent, what is worse than your child getting really hurt or getting really sick? Yeah. So you want to control. Can you control your child? I mean, when they're babies, yeah, it starts. You can control some things when they're babies, yeah. You can try to pick them up when they're crying. Okay. Can you control when your baby pees and poos? Can you control who your baby throws up on? Yeah. Can you? None of these things. Yeah. Baby has a body. They pee and poo when they have to in the diaper. Yeah. They throw up on, on your parents. Grandma and Grandpa love that. Oh, coochie coo, And then as they get older, they say the most, they they use swear words, and you don't know where they learn them, except maybe from you. Yeah. And your little kid goes, says something they shouldn't be saying. But we want to control. We can't control. Yeah. We can't even control everything about our body. Yeah. I mean, right now, okay, I can move my leg. But sometimes, because of that back thing, my leg cramps. And then, okay, I can move it, but it hurts really bad. Can't even control that. Okay, we are basically control freaks, and we get, a lot of our worldly concern is about trying to control things that we can't control. Mm? So this is another thing to be able to release our clinging to worldly things by just accepting we cannot control the world. We think we should be able to, but we can't. Yeah? Do you want to control your own little world around you? Wouldn't it be nice if your parents did what you wanted them to do and your kids did what they wanted to do, and that your partner did what you wanted them to do? Have you ever noticed your partner is so wonderful at the beginning and then they leave their dirty socks all over the place and expect you to pick them up? We want to control, but we can't. So and so we get anxious. We worry. But if we just stop and say, can I control this? No. Yeah. And then refuse to let the anxiety come of, oh, then something's going to happen and I don't know what to do and it's going to be horrible and the sky is going to fall. Yeah. And do you have that fairy tale about Henny Penny, the chicken who ran around, who's saying the sky is falling, the sky is falling? No, you don't. I can tell one person does. Well, yeah, so, yeah, there's some kind of fairy tale. We run around like that. Yeah, because we want to control, but we can't. But if we learn to accept what we can control and what we can't, then we can relax a lot more. And just say, what happens? I will deal with it. I don't know what will happen. It could be this, it could be that. But whatever it is, I'll deal with it to the best of my ability, knowing I can't control all the factors and all the conditions. Okay, so that's another technique. Then there's a really good one. So when I was in Singapore a few months ago, I was asked to speak to a group of leaders about leadership. Yeah, they assumed that because I was the abbess of a monastery, that I'm a good leader and that I have a whole program written out of how to be a good leader. And I had to tell the person who invited me to give this talk, that I never thought about it before, about how to be a good leader. I never did. It's like something needs to be done, then you do it the best you can. That's it. So the group that I was supposed to speak to was some fancy club in Singapore. Yeah. You know where Singapore is? Okay. Yeah, the first time I went, I was sent there by my teacher. Where's Singapore? I knew it was somewhere in Southeast Asia, but not where exactly. Anyway, it was at some fancy hotel, like the Intercontinental, something like that. And, just this, yeah. And, I walk in like this with my dirty robes. And, and I'm supposed to give a talk to these people who they told me were mostly executives and business people. Okay. So these are people who care a lot about the 8 worldly concerns. Yeah, they want money because money indicates success. It indicates status. Yeah, you give it to your kids instead of giving them love. So it represents love because you're too busy working to earn money to spend time with your kids. So you give your kids money. It symbolizes love, you know. So these are people who want money. They want prestige, a good reputation, good status. Yeah, they like to be praised, written up in Forbes, is it 400? 600, some fancy magazine with the success, all the successful businesses. Yeah. Yeah, so they cared about that. They went out for good meals with good food and good liquor and yeah. Okay, so I come in and I'm supposed to talk to them about leadership. Right. And I thought, I've never thought really about leadership. But my concern about these people was how invested they are in the pleasures of this life and how upset they will be if they don't get those pleasures. If they don't have a good reputation, good status, praise, high position, nice music, nice, silk sheets on the bed or whatever it is, nice tactile sensations, fancy clothes. They're quite attached to this stuff. And then the corresponding thing of being upset when they don't get it or they get the opposite. And I thought, rather than address leadership, I have to talk about that. Because leadership, why are you a good leader if you're in the business world? So that you can get 4 of the 8 worldly concerns and prevent yourself from getting the other 4 that you don't like. Yeah, so leadership goes together with worldly concerns. So I said, okay, you people, you're very busy and you want to be a good leader and your company has to be successful and be better than the competitors, and you're worried about the economy and your investments and, your social life. Because as soon as, you're successful like that, then you have to have a car that matches your job. Yeah, you can't just drive any old car. Yeah, if you're a doctor, you have to have a certain kind of car. If you're a business executive, you have to have another kind of car. Then you need a spouse that corresponds to your status. Okay. In America, they call it a trophy wife. Yeah, she's like a trophy. Yeah, this is what Melania Trump is. Yeah, she is a trophy that he can show off. So you have to rearrange everything in your life so that it matches who you want to be and who you think you are. And so I said, your whole life is consumed by that. But how do you feel about your actions when you're home alone by yourself? Because to get at all those things, sometimes you have to lie, you have to cheat customers, you have to not be fair to clients. Yeah, right? I mean, isn't this what the business world is about? Oh, again, I'm getting blank stares. Yeah. When I go to Singapore, there's one businessman who invites us for lunch every time. And almost every time I see him, he says, how do you do business without lying? Yeah, because he's a Buddhist and, and He knows what I'm going to say, No, lying, you can't, you've got to stop lying. It creates negative karma. It deceives others. When people find out that you've been lying, it makes a mess. Yeah, you've got to stop lying. But I've got to. I have to. Yeah. I said, you have to? I have to. I said, actually, the only thing you have to do is die. Yeah. Everything else is optional. Yeah. You have a choice whether to lie or not, whether to cheat or not, whether to sleep around or not. Yeah. Whether to criticize somebody or not. You have a choice. Yeah. But look at how you're acting, and do you feel good about yourself? Yeah. How do you feel? Because most of them had families. How do you feel about your kids growing up and you hardly seeing them because you're so busy working? Yeah. Because I said to them, you're going to die sometime. And my friend who was there said, yeah, when you said that, they all sat like this. Yeah. I said, you're going to die sometime. When you sit like this, what's it indicate?
Close up.
Yeah, you're close. You don't want to hear it. You're protecting yourself. The big guys are. And I said, I've never heard anybody on their deathbed say, the thing I regret about life is I should have made more money. You ever heard anybody dying with the regret that they didn't make more money? No, because when you die, you can't take any of it with you. None of it. Zero. Yeah. In Asia, sometimes if they do ancestor worship practice, they'll take paper money, not real money. You go and exchange real money to buy paper money from the bank of hell. Yeah, and then you burn it, and you assume that your relatives will pick it up at the bank of hell and be able to buy what they need, like a good aircon. Yeah. But I said, when you die, your money stays here. Your reputation doesn't come with you. All your praise is in the past. All your blame is in the past. All your failure is in the past. None of that comes with you. What comes with you when you die is your karma, the actions that you've done in your life and the imprints of those actions, which will influence what you are, what kind of being you are reborn as, what you will experience in your future lives, personality traits that you have, different habits, and so on. So what comes with you, is habitual things that you do, whether good or bad, and the imprints of the actions that you've done, whereas all the things that you created negative actions to have or to get rid of, that's all over in the past. So you might cheat, you might lie to people to get what you want or to protect yourself from people knowing things you don't want them to know about yourself. And so you may lie, and you may even be successful, yeah, until, of course, people found out that you lied, because that's what usually happens. And then you have to, what do they do? Face the music, yeah, when somebody finds out that you lied. And the karma, the energy trace, the karmic seed from the act of lying comes with you and influences your life. In this life, it becomes a big problem because you lied to this one, you lied to that one, you lied to the other one, and you can't remember which lie you told to who about the same situation. You ever had that happen when you lied? Yeah. Oh, you people don't lie. I'm sorry. I know you never lie. You never exaggerate things. Yeah, you never cover up stuff that you don't want people to know. Well, there's other people who do that stuff. Yeah. So I said, when you lie, you create problems right now for yourself. You create problems for other people in your relationships, and you're creating problems for your future life too. But whatever you lied about is gone in the past. Okay. So I said, it's more important than these 8 worldly concerns is how you act in the world. What are your values? What are your principles? Yeah, what is your ethical conduct? Because if we keep good ethical conduct, then we don't have regrets in our life. When we don't keep good ethical conduct, there's regrets. Yeah. And the regrets are deep. We covered them up. We don't want to admit them now because if we admit that we did something really nasty, then our reputation is going to go down. People will criticize us. Yeah. So we get anxious. Then we have to go to the doctor and get some anxiety pills. I said, it's easier just to keep good ethical conduct because then you don't have fear. You're not afraid of people finding out unbecoming things about you. You're not afraid of, when you die, you're not going to be afraid. Yeah, you're not going to have regrets. So this is, whether you're rich or poor, I said this to these fancy people, but it doesn't matter. It's the same for all of us. If we act ethically, if we're very clear about what our values are and we hold to our values, then our life is so much happier. We may not get all the possessions we want. We may not get the status and approval and praise that we want. But all that stuff really is so transient, and it doesn't come with us when we die. Then why not have good ethical concern, act ethically, and then have a happy life and good relationships with people now and die without regret.
I wanted to know what happened in the meeting in Singapore. How did they get your talk in Singapore?
In Singapore?
What happened?
Well, apparently when because my friend was watching them, she told me later. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said something, I think it was something to the effect of, if you act according to your values, you're not going to have regret. And she said then they kind of, unfolded their arms and relaxed a bit.
I wanted to ask you about what you said about the workplace. Because I'm in the corporate world, and I think everybody who works in the corporate world knows how difficult it is to be ethical the whole time and not be angry as well. And I like my job. I don't necessarily want to change my job, but it is really hard not to, as the person you met said, like not to lie and to try and keep there is a teaching that you mentioned in your book, Open Heart, Clear Mind, about pushy or passive, when it's like you're trying not to let people take advantage of you, but at the same time you're setting boundaries. So if you could talk about that a little bit, please, because I think it's a really good teaching in the workplace especially.
Okay. So this is kind of like the question that I talked about the man in Singapore asking me. Yeah. So what I tell him is, I have one friend who used to be an executive in Hong Kong when Hong Kong was still under the British. and she worked for Levi Strauss. She was an executive. So I asked her that question, do you have to lie to do good business? And she said, actually, if you lie, in the long term, you're harming your business. Because if you lie to your customer or your client, you cheat them, you're deceiving them, and things will not turn out very well for them, and they'll know that you lied, and they will not come back to do business with you, and they will not recommend you to other people. But she said, if you're honest, then they will trust you, they will come back again and again, and they will tell other people that you are a trustworthy person and business to deal with. Yeah, so that's it. Yeah. Sometimes people tell me, oh, but my boss wants me to lie. My boss tells me to lie. They say, what should I do? And I say, well, you could change your job. And they go, no, I can't change my job. And then I say, well, figure it out, So the thing about, being, and the same thing, because I was talking about compassion to those people and how important compassion is. And compassion doesn't mean that you become a pushover. Yeah, you hold people accountable, but your motivation for holding them accountable is because you're thinking of what is good for them in the long term. Yeah, if you let somebody's bad behavior continue in the long term, it's going to harm them. So you care about them as a human being, not as a worker and a subordinate who you want to manipulate so that they can work more so that you get more money. No, that's not the purpose of what you're doing. Does that make some sense? Yeah. So in that way, you can be kind and compassionate to the people who work for you, if you're in a managerial position, and help them, because in the long term, then they will be happier. You will have a happy workplace. We're in the 3rd week of a 5-week trip, okay? The first place we went on the trip was Microsoft. Okay, the big campus outside with 40 buildings and 10,000 people working on the campus. And I was going to give a talk there. Well, my goodness. One lady, when we were eating lunch, they diagrammed the whole corporate structure for us. And this one reports to that, who reports to that, and this and this, and how much competition there is, that it's really cutthroat because everybody wants to prove themselves so that they can get more money and get a promotion, and just how miserable it is. One lady said, she has 3 kids, but she works 15 hours a day. Yeah. And I said, in my talk, I said, this kind of cutthroat thing to prove yourself for the sake of status and money, it's going to harm your health, it's going to harm your kids and your family, and it's not worth it, And she wrote a very nice thank you note afterwards. She said that really helped her.
Thank you so much for your talk. I was just wondering, you talked about feeling anxious, and you also
spoke a few times about your president at the moment. But then there's also other things happening in the world. And if you talk about those like worldly concerns or those worldly developments, how do you deal with that? It's something you can't do anything about, but it is impacting lots of lives. So should you just not watch the news and just not care and just what you don't know, or like how to deal with that?
Yes.
That feeling of feeling anxious.
Yes. I think it's when I read the news, is I read it. Are you familiar with the Lamrim?
With me?
Lamrim, the stages of the path to awakening, the teachings on the stages of the path, and the thought training or mind training teachings. When I watch the news, I watch it as a teaching because the news shows it's a whole teaching about karma and the effects of karma. What are people doing? What kind? And then you start thinking, what are they going to experience in the future because of these actions? What happens to different people? What kind of karma did they create in previous lives to have this happen? So I watch it very much as a Dharma teaching. It's an excellent Dharma teaching, and it really makes you want to act ethically because you see the jams that people get into when they just, don't. And they're lying and deceiving and sleeping around and stealing and killing and everything, just for the sake of this life. And it's not worth it. So, there's a lot of wars going on right now. The Russia-Ukraine one is very strong, and the Israel-Hamas one is also very strong, at least in my mind. Those are the two I pay attention to because I know people in both sides, in both of those conflicts. And I wish both of those wars would stop. I wish both of them didn't start because it's serving absolutely no long-term purpose or either short-term purpose. Yeah, it's an excellent thing about how people get carried away with reputation and power. An excellent teaching on that. So I can't stop any of that. I can write to my Congress people, so I write to them. Yeah. I have a friend in Ukraine who chose to stay at her job. She lives in Dnipro. Dnipro's been bombed. Her workplace has been bombed. Thank goodness nobody was in it at that time. I can't change the war, but I can write to her. And I can be there for her. And she tells me a little bit about what it's like, but she also has a remarkable attitude. She's a Buddhist practitioner. So I can't change the war, but I can help my friend by writing about, giving her a Buddhist perspective and showing empathy and so on. Okay? The same thing with the Israeli-Hamas thing. So I can, help my friends out, but I can't change the wars. So this is part of accepting that we can and can't change certain things. But one thing that we often think is, I should be able to change the big things. I should be able to stop this war. I should be able to, whatever it is we want to change in the world because it's horrific. We can't change that, but we can influence people who are around us. Yeah. And when we think of compassionate people who have a strong influence on the world, we think of Gandhi, we think of Mother Teresa, we think of the Dalai Lama, people like that, yeah, who do big things. We can't, or at least I can't, yeah? But those people they aren't sitting here in this room with you. Yeah, they aren't in the monastery where I live. They aren't in my family. They cannot influence the people that I am with in the same way that I can influence them if I hold my mind clear and compassionate. So we may not be able to do big things, but we can do a lot of small things, not only for the people that we know, but also for strangers. Yeah, to be polite to strangers, to be considerate. You know, when you have to return something, instead of screaming at the customer service person, being polite. When they cancel your flight, yeah, you know that one? That one's so lovely, you know? Yeah, you have a flight at 1 o'clock in the morning and you really want to get on that plane and go to sleep, even though you can't because you're squished. And then they cancel your flight and you're stuck at the airport all night. Okay, you know the scene. Well, I can at least be courteous to the people who help me rebook the flight. I can be kind to the other people on my flight and, you know, not just be exasperated and angry and in a bad mood. You know, one time that actually happened. I forget where I was flying, some international flight, and it was delayed by I don't know how many hours. And I just said, okay, you know, I can't control it. I'm going to be calm. Why not be calm? You have a choice. Yeah. So I just kind of did my best and, you know, read something and amused myself. And somebody later, when we boarded the plane, said, "Oh, you were so calm while we were waiting. That really helped me." And of course, I had no thought of, you know, helping anybody. I was just trying to, you know, do what was sensible. But, you know, we'd be surprised the kind of influence we can have by doing very small things, yeah, especially with strangers. And I always talk about thanking your garbage collector. Have you ever thanked your garbage collector? Anybody? Yeah. Oh, garbage collector. Let me tell you, garbage collectors are really important people, and they have a really important job. Yeah. Because I was in a major city once when the garbage collectors were on strike. Not good. Yeah, then you really see, wow, what these people do is important. We should respect them. We should thank them. Yeah, because they are the key to the whole city staying healthy. Because if they don't collect the garbage, the rats will come and help collect the garbage. And the dogs will, you know, make themselves, you know, they'll help collect the garbage. So, yeah, there's so many people that we can relate to in society that people ignore, that they don't appreciate, that we consider, you know, lower than us or whatever. And these people usually have jobs that are so important. You know, I know the whole thing about migrants is a big thing here, yeah, in my country also. And it's like the president of my country, not my president, is, you know, I mean, what he says about migrants is horrific. And these are the people who pick the fruit and vegetables that we eat. Yeah. And you want to kick them out, you call them murderers and rapists and terrorists, and they're picking the fruit and vegetable that you eat. If they weren't here doing that, who's going to do those jobs? Yeah, I don't know here in the Netherlands, but in my country, most Americans don't want to do those jobs. I suspect here it's the same. Yeah, I don't want to go out in the sun. I don't want to be underpaid. Yeah, but those people do incredibly important jobs in our society, and we should respect them, and we should pay them something reasonable, and they should get health care. Yeah, because we depend on them to stay alive. Yeah. And during COVID, who worked in the grocery stores? Who delivered the takeout food? Yeah, who were the healthcare workers working overtime, either at people's homes or in hospitals? Very often, they're the migrants who will, take these kind of jobs because they're just trying to get enough funds to support their family. Yeah, the least we could do is thank them, and as a society, enable them to become citizens and earn a fair wage. Because, nobody else wants to do those jobs. But those are important jobs that affect all of us in a positive way.
This is about trying to control my own thoughts, because there is, every time if I see one person on the telly, I don't know that person, but every time I see him, I think, my God, he's ugly. What can I do about that?
Yeah, we're very good at people watching, aren't we? And when we people watch, we are extravagantly good at finding faults with them. Yeah, why do they walk that way? Why is their hair blue? Why, are they so ugly? Why do they, walk the way they walk? Why are they wearing clothes that don't match? We are so, the judgmental, critical mind works overtime. A good way to work with this is, instead of looking at their appearance and how they appear beautiful or ugly, look inside, look into their heart, and you'll find that they're exactly like us. They want to be happy. They don't want to suffer. Exactly like us. That's all. They want to be happy and not suffer. We're not different. So instead of looking at their attraction, if you get in touch with how each of us in our own hearts, all we want is to be happy and not have suffering, and get in touch with that in yourself and how much you want that. And that's exactly the other person's experience. They want happiness. They don't want pain and misery. And so wish them to have happiness, wish them to be free of pain and misery, in the same way that we wish that for ourselves. Okay? That's a good note on how to end. Yeah.